Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Research Podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds. We got a good show tonight. We got an awesome guest here tonight with us. Um, he's been on the TV show Ghost of Devil's Perch. He's been on the Holster Files. He's been at numerous Paracons. In fact, he's going to be out here in Missouri not soon here, actually. He'll be here at the Missouri Paracon. So if you got your tickets, you'll see him there. Without further ado, let's bring him on, Dave Schrader.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. It's awesome to get you on here.
My pleasure. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the Missouri Paracon too. That's what, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, it's getting close.
Yeah.
You're going to be out there with some big names too, I see.
That's what they keep telling me. I just keep myself in my corner and show up and get surprised like everybody else. I know Shane Pittman's going to be there from the Holzer Files and quite a few other speakers, and I'm blanking on them right now. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw Dave Tango and Steve Gonzalez will be out there. Looks like it's going to be an awesome Paracon. I saw Chip Coffey was supposed to be there.
Right. Sarah Lemos is going to be there for sure from Ghost Town Terror. Chip Coffey has been dealing with some medical issues, and just to keep himself safe, I think he's staying back home.
Yeah, he's probably better off because that virus has been running rampant.
Yeah.
So, some of my audience aren't familiar with you. Just tell them a little bit about yourself and.
Sure. My name's Dave Schrader. I've been a radio broadcaster for the last 19 years. I started with a show called Darkness Radio here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I did that for about 16, 17 years. And then I left that show, took a very short, like 3-month hiatus, and then started a new program called the Paranormal 60 podcast. And I have been on shows like Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures, Haunted Hospitals. I was the lead judge on a TV show called Paranormal Challenge on Travel Channel. And then I was the paranormal lead investigator of both the Holzer Files and Ghosts of Devil's Perch on Travel Channel. And Shane Pittman, Cindy Keza, and myself from the Holzer Files are filming a brand new series called The Paranormal Mysteries, and it will be out and available this fall on Stream Beacon TV. And you can get that app on your phone, on your tablets, on your TVs, on any of your smart devices. Just look for Stream Beacon TV, and you'll be able to subscribe and get some really cool content.
You already got your first question, Dave. What kind of things prepared you to do radio?
Well, Linda, I had a unhealthy obsession with radio from a very early age. I loved radio, and I grew up in a golden age of radio when personalities were personalities, not just these 10-minute clips that they do on radio now. So I grew up in Chicagoland area. I would call and talk to some of the big names at the time, like Larry Lujak and Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer and Wally Phillips and Roy Leonard and just all of the cool people that were on radio. And I used to ask them questions when I was a kid, and they were very kind in taking my time to, talk to me about it. And then when I went off to college in 1988, I started working at a college radio station and just had a great time with it. And then I was in that for about 2 years, and then went back into the real world of sales and started my career. And it wasn't until I think it was November of 2005, and my partner at the time, Tim Dennis, said he was working as a GM at a radio station. He said, "Hey, man, I got an hour slot to fill every Sunday night. Do you want to do a show together?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What's our topic?" I said, "Let's do the paranormal." And that January 1st, 2006, we launched Darkness Radio. And I've been a fixture in the paranormal world ever since. I've co-wrote a book called The Other Side, a teen's guide to ghost hunting and the paranormal. And I have a brand new book out called Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness. And they're real life encounters with the strange and supernatural. Two of the stories are mine. The rest are from listeners that have shared them with me over the last 19 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I saw you did the Holzer Files,
Hmm.
and not many I don't know if many people are familiar with Hans Holzer. He's one of the pioneers in the paranormal field.
Yeah.
Um,
Dr. Hans Holzer was really amazing. I mean, he's Austrian, living in America, and was working as a journalist, and ended up kind of falling into the paranormal when he was invited on a couple of different opportunities. And he went out, and just that was his calling. He absolutely loved it, and just stuck with it, and rode that ride from the late 50s all the way till his death in the early 2000s. So thousands of case files. So we were lucky enough to get to do a TV show called The Holzer Files, where we reopened his original case files. And we had audio, video, photographs, his handwritten notes on all of the cases that he worked on. And we were able to go back in and re-examine some of these cases using 21st century technology and new history and knowledge and understanding. We had a great time. It was a real pleasure to get a chance to do a show like that. And we lasted 2 seasons for a total of, I think, 23 episodes, just before Travel Channel made all of its changes and changeovers. Sorry, my cat Squirrel has decided to enter the fray.
that's right.
Yeah.
Were you
So that
able to do his case file on the Amityville?
no, we didn't do the Amityville case, mainly because the people that own the home are not allowed to let people in there to film or be a part of doing any of that. They're really in Amityville. They don't want that kind of attention. So my understanding is when you buy the house, you promise you're not going to turn it into a business, a museum, a bed and breakfast, and you're not going to film any TV shows there. So they've never allowed, and I know they've had some big money thrown their way, but they've never allowed people in.
There's another question for you. Did you, Dave, have a paranormal experience that got you interested in the field?
That's a great question, Deirdre. I've had a lot of experiences throughout my life. I grew up in a haunted house in Medina, Illinois. My grandmother's ghost would come visit me after she passed away. Sorry, my cat is demanding equal time on camera here. So we had, just kind of a life filled with strange supernatural occurrences and living in the right place at the right time. And yes, I love you too, Squirrel. Thank you. So it's just been a kind of one of those things where I think the paranormal has been stalking me my whole life. So I just eventually gave into it and started investigating it, and it seems to work out pretty well.
Dina Lynn said, as cats do.
Yes. This is my daughter's cat Squirrel, and for some reason he's decided that he needs all the attention right now. Right, buddy?
What do you what do you think the paranormal field has changed since you started 19 years ago?
That's a great question. I don't know that it's changed a whole lot. I can tell you I've changed a lot in the 19 years that since I've been a part of this. Like many people, I just believed ghosts were disincarnate souls of bodies that have died, and maybe they're stuck here, stranded here. And it was just that simple. But I think as I've gotten older and spoken to more people and had more experiences, I've come to realize that there is no one definitive explanation for what ghosts are. I think it's time slip phenomena. I think it's a memory of the locations sometimes, that
Mhm.
that they retain a memory of the people that have crossed their thresholds and have lived there or worked there or died there. And I think there's just a myriad of possibilities. And I think from time to time we bump into alternate realities or parallel universes or reflections of our past or future. So many people believe that a haunting has to come from our past. And I submit that I think, the knocking you're hearing on the wall, maybe 20 years from now, the next family that's living there hanging up a
Right.
picture, you're just hearing the reverberations back through time.
Yep. And I mean, that's even like your residential cases. I believe too, if they once owned the house, they're going to come back and protect what's theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's that's why I said there's so many different reasons or possibilities for what a ghost is or why it's here or why we're experiencing it.
Have you ever experienced any of the demonic stuff in your 19 years of investigating, or
In my investigations, no, I don't think I've ever come up against anything demonic, thankfully, and knock wood. Um, we've come up against some pretty pissed off ghosts. I think we've come up against some elemental figures. Nothing inherently evil. I think probably the most evil is my cat that tries to knock me down the stairs every morning when I go down, weaving in and out of my ankles and trying to knock me over. But that's about it.
right?
I think a lot of people have different thresholds for what fear is for them, and um, I think that people are quick to label something demonic or evil
Mhm.
when really it's just misunderstood or your fear is not prepared for it.
Right.
Because as I've said, I've watched somebody feel something brush against their cheek and they run out screaming like they were set on fire. And I'm like, well, what did it do? What did it do? It brushed against my cheek. It's horrible. It must be a demon. And I'm like, pretty sure a demon would have smacked you around or bit you or done
Yep.
something, and then I've had other people that have literally, like myself, been knocked to the ground, and I won't jump to the conclusion that it's a demon. I try to keep my head cool, stay in the moment, try to understand what's going on and why it might be going on.
Mhm. And that goes back to where I said, like, your residential cases where they own the house, to them, you're a trespasser, you're a burglar in their house, so, of
Yeah,
course, they're gonna wanna hurt you.
yeah.
They wanna scare you out of there because you don't belong there.
I don't even think in those cases that they necessarily want to hurt you. I think that they're maybe just trying to get attention or they're frustrated. Could you imagine being somewhere amongst a throng of people and nobody can hear you, nobody can see you, but maybe once every now and again somebody with the right frequency enters your domain and you are able to connect with them.
Yep,
I don't necessarily think it's them trying to hurt you or do those things. I think sometimes it's just the way they try to get your attention or just trying to scare you off from a location.
yep, because to them, you probably don't belong there. Maybe they don't want you there, and there's some that just want you to talk to them. Maybe they've been alone when they were
Right.
alive, so they're just happy to see someone that can actually communicate and talk with them.
Well, that's why I always tell people take your time when you're doing this. If you're fascinated by the paranormal, um, you have to take your time and patience with spirits. I think I am well suited for what I do because I've got a lot of children. Between my wife and I, we have 11 children. So you learn about personalities, temper tantrums, what sets things off, how to calm situations down, how to make them more energized. So I think that in a lot of ways, I try to treat a ghost like a child, and with respect,
Yep,
but you know, okay, you got my attention. What can I do for you? I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to run away. And think about that. How frustrating it must be for some spirits that they're finally able to connect with somebody, and the minute they do, the person goes running out screaming. So I think if you show some patience and empathy for the spirits, that helps as well.
yep. Yeah, and that's sorta like what we do when we go into somebody's house and do it. We're respectful to find out why they're there in that house, and majority of the time, it's they've lived there before, and that's where they passed away, and that's what they remember.
Yeah.
Uh, Melody said, "Not everything is demonic. It could be one human spirits, two angels, three fallen angels, four elementals, five aliens, interdimensional beings from another dimension, six aliens from this planet or another."
Or a partridge in a pear tree,
Right.
right? Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is there's a myriad of what these things could be and how we perceive them and what we put to it. Are you familiar with the Frank's box?
Yep.
Okay. So Frank Sumption created the Frank's box, this radio scanner. Basically, he got the idea from a popular mechanics magazine from, I want to say, like the 50s or early 60s, and he started creating these Frank's boxes to try to communicate. Well, a lot of the people in the paranormal field ran with it to try to talk to ghosts, and I was really lucky to get to do a film shoot with Frank before he passed away, and he saw me using the box and getting some great responses from it while we were at this haunted hotel in Colorado. And he took me aside at the end of the night and he said, "You know, Dave, I've been doing this a long time. I never get ghosts. I use mine to communicate with like aliens." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, I always get alien communication." And we'd heard it for that night as we were talking to the spirit realm. We heard different things come through that, made sense with the spirits of this location. So he sat down, he turned it on, and it was just the two of us sitting in the little cafe at this hotel. And lo and behold, he started talking, and these weird, kind of robotic, metallic y sounding voices started coming through. He was getting a totally different vibe from it than I was. So I think a lot of it has to do with intention. What are you trying to connect to?
Right.
And, that's where a lot of people start falling in. If they're fearful of the paranormal, this is not the field for them. If they're going to think everything's a demon or something trying to manipulate them or trick them, this is not the right field to be in. Because I do think ghosts and spirits have a sense of humor as well.
Mm.
I've said this, and I'll repeat myself on it, but I'm going to be the guy. I've got 11 grandchildren so far, and that's only from three of my kids. So out of the 11 kids, I could end up with 100 kids, grandkids and 200 great grandkids. I plan on being the guy that hangs around for a while just to muck with everybody and have some fun. I'll be the guy, the grandpa at the, first granddaughter boy girl party. And when they break out grandpa's old Ouija board and they start asking questions and who of us is the first that's going to die, I'll push that planchette right at the boy that's sitting next to her. Right. Um, does it make me evil? No. Does it make me a jerk? Sure, a little bit, but it's just me having fun. And I think that that is the way that sometimes spirits get our attention. They're just screwing around. They got to be bored, right? And then they're just having some fun with you. And
Mhm.
hopefully, they're getting entertainment out of it as well.
Paranormal Rockdown asks, Dave, is there a location you want to investigate that you haven't been able to get access to?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've really been lucky. I've had the opportunity to haunt or ghost hunt in haunted locations in Romania, Germany, Prague, England, Ireland, Scotland, Australia, France. So I've really had a good chance to see a lot of places, and then so many amazing places by doing Holzer Files. 23 episodes. We got to do 23 historic locations, and then another 10 in Butte, Montana, with the Ghosts of Devil's Perch. So there's always places I'd like to go, but like everybody, I'd love to get a chance to just go into the Amityville house for a night. I would love to go to the Entity House in California. My big bold hope is that someday one of my children become president so I can get into the White House and investigate inside the
Right.
White House. Um, so that's it. I can't say there's any one specific place that jumps out of me aside from those. But there are some, I'd love to get into the Enfield Poltergeist house in England. I'd love to get to the Enfield house in America. So, there's a lot of different places that hopefully as time progresses, I'll get to see it. I just turned 57 in November. And when I started this journey, I was just turning 39 and had never been out of the country. And since that time, since I began this pursuing the paranormal and pursuing radio, I've had a chance to visit all of those countries plus Canada. And, I think I've been now to 46 of the 50 states. And so there's a lot of cool mysteries out there. But I also would love to get into some of these. I would love to get out to the actual site where the UFO reportedly crashed in Roswell.
Okay.
I would love to go out on a Bigfoot hunt one night in a well-known, well-documented area. So, I'd love to have more occasions to see UFO, Bigfoot, water creatures, something aside from just the ghostly realm.
Yeah, that's what we're interested too is the Bigfoot realm. I'd like to see if I can capture one on film and we're good friends with Carter Bashart, who's a Bigfoot researcher here in Missouri. He was consultant on two of the Finding Bigfoots when they did Missouri and Kansas.
Great.
And he goes down to the Mark Twain National Forest, and he's got some document a Bigfoot down there. We're supposed to go out with him on that.
Wow. Very cool. And I'd love to go out, and I would love to start cross-pollinating in these kind of investigations and bringing people out that have paranormal ghost-like investigative techniques, psychics and mediums, technicians, and see what we could do by bringing the different modalities of investigations from all these different ways and see if we couldn't connect better.
Carol said some people go to locations and they'll start to get information, but then they run out frightened. I always think, why are you running? Isn't that why you're here?
And Carol, I agree with you, but on the other side of that, we all think we're prepared for certain things until we get them. You think, "Oh, man, there's a demon in that. I wanna go in and see that. I gotta get into that house." And then you go in and something terrifying happens and you go running. And it kind of upsets the apple cart because I think so many people want to believe, but in the same vein, they like the safety of thinking, these people, they're probably just overacting on TV or it's their imagination." And they go in kind of, blustering and posturing that they're tough and gonna be able to get through it, and then something unnerving happens. And like I said, it could be a number of things. It could just be something so simple as something brushing against you, and then suddenly that shifts your paradigm. That totally changes your reality, that this is no longer just they're faking it on TV or it's just somebody's imagination. You now have proof for yourself that it's real. So I give props to people that even try, that go in and run away scared. At least they know and they tried.
Yep,
It's like doing the shows. People would pick on, team members that I worked with that would get frightened in some of these situations. "Oh, I should be on your show. I would never be afraid." And I'm like, well, that's really easy to say when you get to sit at home and watch it from the confines of your own
yep,
home. But when you're in a haunted location and people forget when they're watching TV shows, and you know this, Russell, you go in and investigate a place, it's
yep,
pitch black in there. The
yep,
only way you could see is through the night vision. And what people on TV are watching is a room basked in night vision. To us, it's very dark and dim. There's little light that we might have, some ambient light from a windowsill or even our equipment, but it's not a full realization. And then when something happens, that can really unnerve somebody. So I have all the patience in the world for newcomers that have weird experiences. And I've been lucky enough that I've been doing live events for 19 years. And I've been there with people that were non believers and watched them become believers. I've been there with believers who are terrified when something finally happens. And then I've been there with the believers that were terrified, and I got them to go back in and confront the situation. And they walked away changed because, holy cow, they would have stayed out had I not brought them back in. And they ended up having something really powerful and meaningful happen.
right. And I agree with that too. I mean, we do a haunted movie theater here in Marshall, Missouri that was actually on an episode of Dead Files, and we actually had a member of ours. She was sitting in the chair in one of the movie seats, and you can see us behind. She gets up, feels like there's something in her eye, goes back to her husband, and there's nothing in her eye. She sits back down in the same seat, and all of a sudden, her face just starts morphing on video, and she's sitting there taking her thumb and just digging her face open, not even realize she's doing it.
That's crazy. Yeah. You just never know what's gonna I was out filming with some friends in California probably about 15 years ago, and we were at this old there's a hospital on this college campus, and it's basically abandoned, but it's talked about how haunted it is. So we had gotten light permission to go in and do a little investigation. So we went in and we're walking around, and we come out to take a breather for a little bit, and I've got blood on the side of my nose. You can see it looks like a big scratch and blood trickling down. And my buddy who's filming, he goes, "Dave, you're bleeding. Let me get this on film." And I'm like, "No, no, no. We can't blame that on the paranormal." As you're people watching the show, I'm sitting here scratching and rubbing, and I got cat hair all over me from the cat that was just cuddling on my lap, and I'm all itchy. But I'm walking around in an old dusty building where I'm walking into spider webs. I don't know that I didn't scratch myself. That's
Right,
stupid. I don't want to put that on. We're not going to presented as paranormal. So I make my way over to the bathroom, and I look at it, and sure enough, it looks like a gouge on the side of my nose and blood coming out of it. So I get some water and a little soap in my hands, and I wipe it, and it's gone, and there's not a scratch on my nose. There's nothing wrong. And I'm like, damn it, I wish we would have filmed that. We should have filmed that, because I don't know how that happened unless something was bleeding above me and it dripped on my nose and ran down, which is just as terrifying, I guess, now that I think about it. But you're not always prepared. Everybody's like, I would add my camera. Oh, you saw Bigfoot. Why didn't you film it? You saw UFOs. Why didn't you film it? You saw ghosts. Why? Because sometimes in that moment, you are locked in just examining that moment. And you're like, what am I looking at? Oh my God, is that a Bigfoot? And my thought isn't, I got to reach into my pocket, pull out my phone, put my fingerprint on there, open up my camera and start filming. Because in that 5-second span of time, he could have walked out of my view.
Yep.
In that moment, I want to see what's going on and I want to be a part of that moment. So if I've got a camera in hand and it's running, great. If not, I want to be there to just watch and have the experience for myself.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of times it's gone. Sometimes it happens so quick. You'll catch it
Exactly.
out of the corner of your eye, and by the time you turn, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, we've run into that several times.
Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen or what the catalyst will be for a moment, and you're not always prepared for it. So, like I said, I give a lot of patience and credence to people that have had firsthand encounters and didn't videotape it or record it or whatever. And then there are times you do record it and nothing shows up on the film or the
Yeah.
audio is blank. I mean, we were filming at the Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota, and we were down in the basement doing a kind of a spirit box session. And a bunch of us were recording and we caught a really great response. I asked the ghost that, I was talking to what I believe were children's spirits. I'm like, so how about if I do the ABCs and you jump up and, you say the rest of the letters. So I said A, B, C, and all of a sudden out of the spirit box, you hear D, E, F, G, clear as day. And we're all, yo, oh my God, that's amazing. None of
Mhm.
our recorders picked it up. And the one woman sitting next to me couldn't even find the file. A couple days later, luckily, she uncovered the file, recovered the file, and sent it to me. So I do have that audio. But there was a whole room of us. Nobody caught it. And the woman directly next to me, the file just vanished, and she wasn't able to find it until it was recovered a few days later. So pretty cool, right? And then that gives you kind of another perspective of what can and can they not influence? How much of this is us hearing something that might not be actually magnetic, so it won't
Right.
record, but it's something we're hearing audibly?
And that, yeah, I mean, like Missouri State Penitentiary, when we started off in the dungeon cells, I had a camera running, and we all heard the woman yell hello down there. And I was lucky enough to catch it on audio recorder, and the camera mic picked it up.
Well, that's great.
And we went up to the tour guide, and come to find out they never housed any women down there. There was only one man they housed down there. That was the firebug, JB.
But you've had how many hundreds of ghost hunters go through there and
Yeah.
investigate, and at some point, a woman investigator might have been down at the end of the hall going, "Hello?" And you just happen to catch a recording of that moment in time.
Yeah, I sent one of the guys up just to be sure up the stairs to see if there was anybody in that upper hall up there, and there was nobody that came in because we did have another team there with us at that time, so we were trying to debunk it to make sure that it was something legit,
Right.
paranormal, and it
That's all
ended
you
up
can
being
do, yeah.
same with Waverly Hills too. We had the same thing too, loud women screams in the hallway on the 4th floor, and we texted other team to find out where they were. They were up on the 5th floor past 502 doing a Estes method out on the roof.
Yeah, it's weird, right? And you have places like Waverly Hills. I was there investigating one time, and we had me and two guys walked around the corner, and right at the corner, one of the deals was a nurse, full view nurse, and she looked at us and turned and took off down the hall. And the three of us were like, "What the hell was that?" And then you realize how long that place has been reported to be haunted.
Mhm.
So, did she come around the corner in 1958 and see these 3 idiots standing there like Beavis and Butthead and Squidward, and they take off running because she's freaked out by these people that aren't supposed to be there. I had a full on shadow person encounter at Waverly Hills. We have a news crew came to film one of the kind of events that we were holding there. And we were up in one of the rooms on, I think, like the third floor, second or third floor, and the people had brought in just a little simple rubber ball, and you put your finger on the rubber ball, and if you take it off, the ball would just start rolling around the room by itself. And you go, "Can you come back here?" And it would wind its way back over to you and stop right in front of you. And the camera crew was there. They caught the entire thing. And I even picked up the ball and I'm shaking it to show that there's no motor in it. There's not a hamster inside. Put the flashlight up to it so you could see it was empty. Gave it to them to hold so they could see it was empty. Put it back on the floor. Boom, it took off rolling again. That was weird. But it's in those moments that I love. It's those little magic moments
Yep.
that keep me interested in the paranormal field.
And we had the same similar instance at Waverly during the day tour. We were on walking around inside on the 4th floor with the tour guide, and the tour guide and I both seen this black shadow figure peek around like this and look at us. We yell out hello down there, nobody answered us, and we couldn't be sure it was the other team walking around. Well, they were on the outer catwalks coming through.
Mhm.
None of them were in that hallway with us. And as we were walking back on the 4th floor, we had this white figure come running down the hallway at us, blow right between both of us. You could feel the cold breeze as it went by, and then it just vanished in midair.
Mm. That's amazing. Yeah. That's what's so exciting about all of this, right? Is it's investigating the unknown, taking time to look at these little moments and try to deconstruct them to understand what might be happening or how. I think as a human, we are so much more capable of things that people don't give themselves enough credit for.
Right.
And I think you can see it in some children with severe autism. They're 2 or 3 years old. They can listen and then start playing the piano without ever having had a lesson, or they can do remarkable math at the age of 3 and 4 years old. That shows that somewhere in our brains we have unlimited capabilities, but it's
Yep.
how do we tap into it? How do we find ways to reveal those bits? There are twins with telepathic communication that literally can look at each other and know exactly not just what the other person's thinking, but what they're saying in their head. So there's enough out there to let me believe that we are so much more capable of doing great things. And that's what excites me is I'm hoping that in doing this kind of research, maybe by accident, I'll uncover what it is, where I'm at, how to do it, and what I can do to move it
Right.
further. I want to this year take some remote viewing classes because I believe that will be a good indoctrination point for me, good entry point. I've been told I have psychic abilities. I've had some moments in my life where I've seen things precognitively, sensed things, and I'll go over to a corner that nobody's paying attention to, and I get immediate responses from spirits.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe remote viewing would be that first nice door to kind of go through to help me build on this ability and see where it takes me.
Yep. And I mean, the paranormal too is all thinking outside the box too.
Yeah.
And like role playing, for instance, works pretty well. We did that at Waverly. I laid on one of the surgery table, had a member wheel me under the light, and I was playing like I was sick. And he was yelling, "We need a doctor in here." And then we had a motion light kick on in the doorway, and then heard a noise. I went to sit up, and I couldn't move. It was like I was being pushed down to the table. I couldn't move my
Wow.
arms, my legs,
That's
and
crazy. Yeah.
it's a weird feeling d doing something like that. And then, laying in the morgue too, I climbed in that refrigerator part and laid in there for about 2 hours by myself, and we were getting I got some EVPs out of there. I got one that says, "He's dead."
Hmm. Well, you must have been doing a good job acting then.
Yeah, I mean, I went in there most of them all went in feet first. I went in head first to make it look like it was real, and I put my arms across my chest.
Yeah. Well, at Waverly Hills, I was there with Mark and Debbie Constantino.
Okay, yep.
And we were doing an investigation there, again, probably about 15, 16 years ago. And Mark would get everybody down. We were in the morgue and we all settled in, got real quiet. Mark just turned on his recorder and held it out in front of him. And he didn't say anything for about 20 seconds. Then he started asking questions. And when we played it back, it was amazing because you can hear him go, okay, shh. And everybody settles down. No talking, no talking. All of a sudden you hear this voice go, shh, they're going to try to record us. And he goes, and then you hear him start asking questions. So it was really cool. I mean, the spirits seemed to be aware that we were there doing this. Carol asks, what are your thoughts on carrying things from our ancestors within our DNA? Carol, great question. I firmly believe that. I think sometimes memories we have that don't seem to fit may not necessarily be past life incarnations, but genetic memories. We know that that's what happens for animals. It seems like it would only make sense that it would still be part of who we are. So, I've people that believe that they were reincarnated. I'm not saying reincarnation isn't real, but it makes me wonder: is it something that's maybe connected to a relative and something that we're picking up vibrationally? Because it's part of who we are.
She says, I'm trying to use sound frequencies at 2000 or more to ground out negative entities that they ride on to get rid of them. You can get a tool that finds leaks gas or air using sound waves, hook it up to an amplifier at 4000.
That's over my pay grade. I'm not a big tech head, so I don't know what any of that meant, but I'll take your word for it, Melody. That's why, doing the shows, Shane was our techie on Paranormal, on the Holzer Files, and Katie Stafford was our techie on Ghost of Devil's Perch. I know where to push the button on my recorder and how to listen to it, and that's about the extent. I've got a lot of cool equipment, and I've played with all this equipment over the years. I always go back to just my recorder because really that to me is I've bonded well with my equipment and I get good results with it. So, I let everybody else play with the SLS cameras and the thermal cameras and the sound wave technology. I love to watch it take place, but I don't know how it works, why it works, or what we're even doing.
Right. Yeah, that's like me. My basic is my recorder, and I'll take my mel meter. I've got the mel meter with REM pod and shadow detection. That's the main two pieces of equipment I take with me. My team plays
Uh,
the rest of it.
I think Greg has a question. I can't read it. So you can throw it up on the screen. Greg says, "Hey Dave, back on Ghost Adventures, were you worried about being beamed up?" Oh, Greg's referring to the Stardust Ranch episode. No, I actually invited it. If you watch the episode, it was interesting because I've been friends with the Ghost Adventures guys since the very beginning. As a matter of fact, I was a researcher and a location scout for them for 5 years. And at one point, you know, we couldn't get at the Skinwalker Ranch, but Zach wanted something like Skinwalker Ranch, and I just talked to this gentleman on my radio show about his place, and the Stardust Ranch out in Arizona. And he claimed to have portals on the property, cryptid creatures, ghosts, aliens that would enter his home, things that were molesting his wife. It was really crazy. So I told Zach about it. He goes, "How confident are you in this guy?" I said, "I'm confident this is an amazing story. I don't know if it's real or not. We'll have to go see." So he invited me to go along, and we went out, and it was not a big location to investigate. So I knew I would probably get relegated back to the hotel at one point. But while I was out talking to Billy Tolley, I said, "Boy, I really wish I could have a really profound UFO or alien experience." And he goes, "Maybe you'll get abducted." I said, "I'm fine with that. Let me have a cool experience." And they kept telling us about the mountain range right in front of their property where these lights would always be seen.
Mm.
Um, Smaller UFO like lights, and sometimes these motherships that they said would come up over the mountain. So Zach during the episode says, "Dave, so you want to be abducted?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know if abducted, but I'd like to have an experience." "No, no, no. Do you want to be abducted?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I want to be abducted." And he goes, "Well, let's go put you up there by yourself." And I was like, "Okay." So we went up and they set up the light cannon up there for night vision. They set up cameras to film me. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, they're not stupid, these beings. If I have a way to call for help, they're not going to come. So I handed him my walkie-talkie and I handed him my cell phone and I said, "I'll just be up here. I had a pair of night vision binoculars that could film. So I tried a bunch of different experiments. I prayed trying to get the UFOs, all that stuff. We caught something. I watched something come flying up and stop, and I was filming it, and then boom, it just took off like a bat out of hell. And I heard something walking around over on the other side by the light cannon. And I couldn't see it, but I could hear it crunching on the rocks. So yeah, I would have loved to have had an experience more profound than just seeing a light fly through the sky, and stop and then start again. But that was still amazing, and I was really, I was very honored to be a part of the episodes. I think I'm on like about 12 episodes of Ghost Adventures, plus their 2 live Halloween specials. So whether you love them or hate them, they're a great show that has been entertaining people now for, 18
Yeah, they've
years.
been on a long time. Carol,
Carol says, "Thank you. So do you think getting information from the Akashic records would be a route to get that or to do past life regression first?" Um, all different modalities for different people. I mean, the Akashic records, again, now that's just something that, God, his name is blanked out of my mind right now. I'm sure, Carol, you know who I'm talking about, the guy that talked about the Akashic records, the sleeping prophet, and I can't think of his name right now. Um, but that's what he claimed. He could tap into this kind of ethereal internet, if you will, and access things. Past life uh, specialists will walk you back through your lives and do it. So I think there's different elements of both. I'd say try both. And I don't know if one is better than the other to start with. I would say I would like to go in first and just try to go through my own timeline or timelines to see about my past lives. The Akashic Records seems like something else. But the one fear I have about Akashic Records is if it's like the internet without a firewall. You're connecting to something. I don't know that I'm not getting downloads of information or bad things that I don't want in me. So I'm
mhm.
I'm kind of, I'm cautious with what I would do and how I would do that.
Greg said you were awesome on that episode.
Thank you, Greg. I had a great time. It was funny. I always joke around about the fact that I knew when I saw the size of the house, I wasn't going to be a part of that investigation. And I thought, damn it, there goes my screen time on this episode of Ghost Adventures. And then when he asked me to go up on the mountain, and I was like, yeah. And I figured, oh, they're going to maybe cut to me once for a few seconds or just at the end to come up and say nothing happened. But when I turned over the walkie-talkie and the cell phone, I saw the look on Zach's face, and he had that kind of, "Oh, you just got more screen time because now we have to keep coming back up to look
Yeah.
at you on the cameras to make sure that you're not eaten alive by a mountain lion or a snake or abducted by aliens." So I always had fun with that bit of it too. And people, when we were watching it, and they were texting along on Twitter, uh, everybody's like, "Oh, Dave's got balls of steel. Oh, I can't believe how brave he was." And I reminded people, I said, let's reimagine this. The house is where all the major creepy activity took place. They just saw lights up by the mountain. I was really kind of in the safest place. Those guys were down in the trenches. I was
Yeah.
only in a place where we saw lights fly over. So I'll take that everybody thought I was bold as brass and Superman for that deal, but in reality it's not quite that way. Jim, who is your favorite ghost box builder? Um, it's tough because everybody kind of does different things. KD's box, is great. We had some really amazing interactions with that on Ghost to Devil's Perch. Having used Frank's box, man, I got great stuff through that. I use the necrophonics on my phone and I get responses that are bonkers and fit in right where I'm at. So it's hard to say that I have a favorite, but I rotate through what I like to use and what I don't like to use. Melody says, Dave, what do you think works the best getting rid of negative entities? Again, then it comes down to the definition of what's a negative entity, Melody, right? Sometimes I think a ghost is pestering you because it knows you can sense it, and it may not be trying to hurt you or be frightening. I think sometimes just being open with the spirit realm and saying, listen, you're really scaring me or you're making me uncomfortable. I want you to stop, is good enough. And sometimes just putting your foot down that way stops it. I use prayer, a lot of prayer in my work. So the prayer of Michael the Archangel is very powerful. I carry Benedictine medals. I carry some blessed medallions and items on me. But there are times I don't bring them into the investigation because I also feel like if you're a ghost, you have a limited amount of energy to get seen, get heard, get noticed. Am I going to go to the jackass carrying a Bible and a crucifix and a bottle of holy water that looks like he's going to freak out if I go to him, or am I going to go over to Dave Schrader who is just carrying around a recorder? So a lot of times I don't take my equipment, my blessed equipment in with me to an investigation because I want to draw the attention of the entities. But before I leave, I do a prayer. And I do this prayer at every location I go to. So, Melody, if you'd like, or whoever's listening, if you like the power of prayer, this is what I say. I go, Lord, I just invite you into this building. And I ask that you bring the Holy Spirit and baptize each of these rooms in the blood of Jesus Christ. Help any spirit that's lost or forgotten and can't find its way. I ask that you just open the light and bring forth their friends, relatives, lovers, favorite pets, and help them ease through this transition. And Lord, any spirit that wishes to stay here, I ask that you bind it and bind those that live here or come through here in a thorny hedge of protection to keep them safe from this entity. I pray this in your name. Amen. And I do prayers like that. I will sometimes, if I've come across a specific spirit, Melody's ghost, I will do a specific prayer for Melody. And then I'll do a prayer for myself on the way out. That Lord, I just call back my mind, my spirit, my heart, my soul, and I ask to keep me safe from any energies that are not mine. And I ask that you clear me. And that's kind of the prayers that I work on. It doesn't mean that it always works. Sometimes I'll have stuff, but I never feel like they're negative entities that have followed me home. I think sometimes they just are still trying to get my attention.
And even with them being negative, with you doing the prayer, that kind of binds them where they're at. They're not able to, because you're surrounded by that white light.
I try to be, yeah. So, I usually talk people through prayers. Greg asks, do I own a Frank's box? I don't, Greg. I never ended up getting one. I always wanted to, and I always meant to get one from Frank, and then he passed away. So I kind of kicked myself for not having taken advantage of that when I had the chance to purchase one when he was still alive and creating them. Yep. Jim Pfister says, well said. Thank you. A Frank's box is my workhorse. KD makes a great box. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we used his box when we were on Ghost of Devil's Perch and had some really profound experiences come through that. I'm still just not, but the thing is, I still don't understand how all these things work. And here's the thing. Most of the inventors don't understand how it works. Bill Chappell, who's created so many of the different pieces of technology, will tell you, I don't know if these are ghosts. But something's interacting with us. Is it our own consciousness? Is it spirits? Is it interdimensional beings? Is it maybe our own soul manipulating, giving us the answers that we do know we're just not able to access?
We did a case that was actually the homeowners called us in and they thought it was something demonic.
Mm-hmm.
And their stepdaughter was playing with a homemade Ouija board that she did, and she brought something in to harm her stepmom. Well, her little sister had drawn out what she seen grabbing her older sister. Come to find out, it was an elemental, a draconian starseed, which is like a reptilian creature. And they're brought in for good or harm. Well, this was brought in for harm, and there was a trapped spirit there from a motor vehicle accident
Mm.
years ago. And that draconian actually stepped aside to let that spirit leave. And then eventually the draconian went on his way too. But we were doing some religious stuff, thinking it was they were leading us to believe it was demonic, and the thing come across the spirit box and laughed at me and says, "I'm older than God. I'm part of
Yeah.
the earth."
There's different types of energies and elements out there that that do proceed. They even talk about the jinn in the Bible being older than Earth, right? So I mean, it's hard to say. And I saw Melody said, unfortunately, nothing has worked in my case. These are negative creatures and attachments. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know if you're just not getting help from the right people. I don't know what their true belief system is. Unfortunately, our field draws a lot of strange people to it. A lot of people that call themselves demonologists, that their real experiences is they've watched every Exorcist movie and every ghost hunter show, and they just think that's the cooler angle. So they become the quote unquote demonologist of a paranormal team. And I studied. What did you study? What did you read? What are the texts that you read? What do you go to church? Oh, I don't know. I don't go to church. If you don't have any real authority and you weren't called to this job legitimately, I've like Adam Bly is a dear friend of mine, and he has helped at many Catholic exorcisms, and he's watched good people get tossed around like rag dolls. But you come to find that maybe their beliefs are not as solid as you once thought, or that they have other
Right.
predilections, other issues, which are making them ineffective. So I don't understand. I don't know, Melody. I can't tell you, and it may be something that you have to look at from a different perspective. Of maybe it's a blood curse, a family curse, something that's just a part of you, and you have to find somebody that can help unbind that. With if prayer doesn't work for you, and smudging doesn't work for you, you might just need to find somebody who's proficient at curse breaking and work on that. But any of these things are also like a muscle. You got to keep at it then to keep that border up. And there's a problem with some people that have dealt with negative energies, that after a while they don't get the attention they once got when they had the attachments.
Mhm.
And it leaves them, and they almost kind of call it back. And I'm not saying that's you, Melody. Please understand. I'm just saying, but that does happen. Some people call the energy back to them because they almost feel empty without it, or unimportant.
Right.
And that's tragic, that somebody would rather have something dark in their lives as a part of it to make them feel special. But in your case, Melody, I don't know. Reverend Bill Bean, I've worked with, has helped break a lot of those kind of issues and has helped a lot of people. It's also part of it is the willingness of you, and it may be. Let's see. She says, not a curse at all. I went to a job in 2007, heard a voice. It followed me home. My nightmare began. Okay. Um, then I don't know. Like I said, I'm just throwing out, because I don't know you. I don't know your stories. I'm throwing out just possibilities of what could be. Um, is there a link to it? Maybe even in doing a past life regression, Melody, maybe you'll find out that you are somehow attached to this being. Maybe it recognizes you in this lifetime as somebody that it used to know. And maybe doing a past life regression will help break that bond. But like I said, Reverend Bill Bean is a really good one to look up for. Um, yeah, if he's been there and it hasn't worked, then I'm sorry, Melody. I really don't know. You're just gonna have to. This is part of your journey, and you'll just have to keep trying things until you get it there, and it can work. There are other sources out there and other things, and I just continue to keep educating yourself on it. It's the best you can do. I'm sorry that it's done this to you for so long and taken a toll out on you. There's that's got to be brutal. It's got to be a brutal burden to carry. So I wish you all the best in the world. And maybe we'll do this. We have all these amazing followers that are watching along. Right. Jeff Johnson, Bill Bean saved his wife's life. He's been a big help in that. But maybe if you don't mind, Russell, let's just do a quick prayer for Melody. Is that okay?
Yep.
Lord, we just invite you into this group right now, and we invite you amongst each and every one of the members that are watching and are a part of this or listening on their ride home or at work. Lord, we just ask that as we come together tonight, that you help our friend Melody. We ask that you help separate her from this entity that's been connected to her since 2007 or perhaps longer. Lord, we just ask that you cleave that connection, that you then fill her with your white light, your golden healing light, and that you seal her, bind her in a thorny hedge of protection to keep her safe from any more interaction from this entity or entities. And Lord, we just ask that if there's anything around her that means to do her harm, we ask that you bind it and keep it from her. We know that when more than one of us come together in groups of two or more and speak this in your name, you hear us, Lord. So please hear the voice, the collective thoughts of everybody listening right now, and bring some peace to our friend Melody. We pray this in your name. Amen. And hopefully that'll help Melody, or maybe for a while at least. Benedictine metals are good to have, especially if you can get blessed Benedictine metals. Saint Benedict is the exorcist. He was very proficient at it. The initials around the coin itself are the initials for the actual prayers of exorcism. So yeah, very strange. And I wish you very well with that. And anybody out there that's suffering, I pray for you, and I hope that there's a way that you'll feel better and not have to deal with these kind of things. So And I know we've got about 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions from your audience that we can get to? Anything else I can answer for you before we part ways this evening?
Um, what is one piece of evidence that you caught that stands out from all the rest that still makes you say, "Wow"?
Uh, we have we have two pieces of evidence from the Holzer files that really stand out to me. I love the episodes. I love the um we caught uh, this amazing spirit. It almost looks like an angel. It comes out of just out of nowhere, out of the air. You see it kind of swirl around and then it swings around and goes up a flight of stairs. That's one of the most amazing pieces of evidence I've ever seen. And then you hear us upstairs. C- Cindy says something like, "Something's coming in the room." And I turn the SLS camera and I actually catch a figure coming into the room. And it's right after this thing went up the stairs. So we caught it three different ways. We caught it with the Staticam, we caught it with an SLS camera, and our medium brought it up before I even knew what was going on. So that was pretty powerful. And then there's an episode called "The Final Word" of Holzer Files, and it was a very powerful episode. It's my favorite episode because my daughter got to be a part of it. It was a very powerful episode. We were at Franklin Castle in Ohio, and the morning before, going over there, I was just doom scrolling through my phone, and I came upon a memory, and it was a memory of the fact that my daughter, Ripley, had almost died, I think it was 2 years before, from complications of diabetes. And it just really kinda humbled me in that moment to think, "Wow, 2 years ago, I'm so lucky she's still with us." And when we went in and I started talking to the historian and we started learning about the family that lived there, and then they told us about the daughter that passed away, and I said, "Oh, what happened?" "Well, she died from complications of diabetes." And I just started bawling, and it was really hard. Um, really feel like the synchronicities of the universe come together for a reason at times. So it became my mission to try to help this little girl's spirit, which was tough because she only made herself known to children. And we're three grown adults, you know? What are we going to do? So I actually thought about it and I reached out to my daughter and I said, "Ripley, would you make me a video and just introduce yourself and maybe ask 5 questions?" So she made 2 videos and asked 5 different questions in each video. And I went to the area up in the attic where the ghost of the little girl was seen often, and I held up my phone and I hit play and I held out my recorder. And we got this, my daughter asking the questions of the little girl. And we ended up catching a really nice EVP from that. But we also, when we were doing a closing ceremony, because people had used Ouija boards there many times and nobody ever closed the process properly. So we literally brought in a Ouija board, set it down, all 3 of us put our fingers on the planchette and started pushing it in an infinity ring. And we just called forth all the spirits that have been called forth before, and we asked them to return to where they came from. We did this deal, and while we were filming that, um, and while we were doing that, unbeknownst to us, the camera caught over Shane's shoulder. You see on the little like windowsill, you see this little girl's apparition appear, and it was very profound. And to me, that those are 2 of the best pieces of evidence I've ever seen on any show. And it was super powerful for me. Broke me down crying again when we saw that video because I felt like we did the right thing and we made that connection.
Yep.
Those would be my 2 favorite moments. But gosh, I mean, there were so many different things that happened while we were out filming, and so many different elements of EVP and personal experiences. It's so hard to say this is my favorite, but those 2 were visibly caught on camera.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If people wanna get a hold of you to book you for events, paracons.
Sure. Anyway, Dave at paranormal60.com. That's Dave at paranormal60.com. And they can reach me there, write to me there. I also host a radio show here in Minneapolis on Sunday nights called the Paranormal 360. It's a full round view of the paranormal, and it's Sunday nights, 7 and 9 p.m. So you can just ask your smart device to set an alarm to play WCCO radio Sunday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Go look for Paranormal 60 and Paranormal 360, and you'll be able to listen to the shows that way. You can keep up with me and all the places and things I'm going to do at my website, paranormal60.com. and that's the extent of it. Shane, Cindy, and I are out filming a new series called Paranormal Mysteries that will be out this fall on Stream Beacon TV, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show. So I'm excited to get back out there and start investigating. And Russell, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk with you and
Oh,
your
you're
listeners.
welcome. You're welcome. Anytime you want to come on and do a part two, feel free.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. All right, we're gonna close the show out. I thank everybody for joining me tonight, and we will see you next week. Stay safe out there, stay humble, and see you again next Saturday.